So, I'm finally where I wanted to be. After trying to figure out how to draw clothes and how to draw fashion design and how to do some introduction to character design, which is all going to be linked somewhere around here, it's time to get to costume design. Now, when you think about it, costume design is kinda like fashion design, but with a context. Instead of trying to think about how to match clothes and pieces of fabric and textures and weights and everything, this has to go towards showing a personality and showing the context where this person is going to be and what the clothes says about this person. I know this also applies to fashion design in a way, but this is more focused than that. I have a few resources that I think that you will find useful. I know I did, and all of these that I found is what is going to define the rest of the week for me, because I'm going to take every one of the steps that I found on these tutorials. As usual, all the tutorials that I'm going to talk about right now are going to be linked on the link below, so remember to check it out so you can see them and read them and get some extra insight besides what I'm going to tell you right now. The first is by Grease from the Grease and Norm blog. This is an amazing blog, and it takes you through the most easiest and simple way of the steps on how to approach character design. Then I have one by Javi, where he goes on his video through all the design process of designing a character. So it's good, you know, it takes you by the hand and you do it, you watch him do it, pretty useful. Then I have one by Adam Diaz that goes deeper into the design process and talks about a few things that I'm going to be talking in just a second. And I also have one that is in Spanish by Tati Orantes, and it also adds a few more details about it, about what you should do when you're designing a character. And before starting all the process of designing a character, I found a slideshare that tells you exactly the questions that you have to ask yourself. And that's what I want to talk about right now. Because, you know, from all the research, if I had to sum all of this that I just told you up, the process would go something like this. Okay, check this out. First, what you have to do is ask yourself some questions. The question would be what the personality of the character is going to be, what social position this character is, the gender, the occupation, the occasion, and the time period or the context where this character is. Because maybe you're talking about time like Fantastic Land or something like this, where time period doesn't quite apply. Now, this doesn't have much to do with costume design itself, but it has to do with character design, and the two things are really blended when you think about it. Then comes the time of doing some research. Once you have all these questions answered, you have to start looking on the web for material, for clothes, for how people dress in the way that you think that this character should be dressing in the context and in the in utilitarian sense and in a time period sense. And, you know, try to get most reference for similar characters or similar dresses that this character would wear. You can see that really well in the Javi video. He does that, it's pretty good. So once you have your research done, you have to actually start drawing. And the first thing that you have to think about is about the body shape that this character is going to have and the silhouette that this character is going to have. And the silhouette is not just body shape, but it has to do with an overall shape that is going to define the character entirely. If you remember, I did a video about how to draw body shapes, and I used the Overwatch characters as examples, and there was this one character, Anna, she's a sniper, and in order for you to be able to see her from afar when you're playing the game, she is triangle shape. She's not, you know, like this skinny person that you might, you know, mix somewhere with the background, but she's definable, you can see her, you can find her, and that's what I'm talking about when you're talking about silhouette. It is about finding the overall visual unique shape for this character. This character has to have a shape that no other character can have, so it can be identifiable throughout the story that you're going to tell with this character. You know, that's what you're designing it for. And as an extra, you should also start exaggerating these unique features that you're going to give to the shape of your character. Finally, well, this is where fashion design comes in, because you have to start thinking about, once you have that shape, how this shape is going to affect the shapes within the design of the character. You know, a Grease calls it shapes within a shape, but as we've seen on the fashion design video, it's also called rhythm, which is when you start repeating shapes in order to give it some sense of motion and weight to the design of the costume. It also talks, well, then you have to start thinking about the design focal points, you know, the places where it's going to be emphasis. Maybe it's a fantasy character and she has like a gauntlet or something like that, or maybe a pendant in the chest. And once you have all that decided, you have to start thinking about the color palette that you're going to be using for the character. Now the reference becomes really useful for that part. So as you can see, all the fashion design principles come on top of all these costume design principles that come on top of all of these the character design principles, and then that all comes on top from the like all the questions that you have to ask yourself. And it all comes on top of I don't know, there's so many steps, it's a bit overwhelming. But I'm gonna do it. Since about costume design is about context, I had to kind of develop the world and the characters that I'm going to put the costumes on, so I want to make this as quick as possible, so here it goes. I'm using an idea that I had for a comic book that I will eventually make someday if I can. And this is a world where it's like, I don't know, like 400 years in the future. And in the year 2016, like this year, because 2016 can still get worse, there is an event where magical creatures and every magical spell and everything magical on every book ever written about magic, every fictional book, everything a kid imagined, it all comes down to the world in just one big seismic event. It's clearly like it destroys society or whatever, but I'm talking about a future where magic exists and it's like kind of used regularly, and it also, you know, well, if I had to sum it up, it would be like a post-apocalyptic future where magic exists. I know that I'm mixing a lot of stuff like post-apocalypse, magic, and future, and that's a big challenge. Well, but if I'm going to create a look for characters, I'm going to do it in a world that I already thought of and that I want to, work on, so I'm going to do that. Now, about the characters, I'm thinking about doing costumes for 2 different characters. Now, these don't belong to my story, so I'm just creating them for this, but they're going to be a father and a daughter. The father is going to be like late 30s, and the daughter is going to be like around 9 or 10 years old. Now, these characters had to go from one point of a continent to the other because the father has to keep the girl safe and take her somewhere safe. So they have to go on a journey. Now, the father is an engineer. He doesn't believe in using magic a lot. He knows that, magic can be useful, but he's more like relying on his tools. And he's not like the burly guy. He's not really prepared for the journey that's ahead of them. So I wanted to make like this really skinny, like kind of hunched guy. And the daughter is like this more, she actually loves magic, and she just like is full of imagination, like she was born in this magical world, so she loves everything she sees about it and she wants to use it more, so she's like always paying attention, and her eyes are really like wide. And the relationship they have between the two is that, well, actually the father, he wants to protect her a lot, so that's going to go into the shape of the character. Now, since I had to do some research for the influences, and when I'm talking about influences, I'm talking about, look at this. Now you can go to the screen. I'm talking about future, I'm talking about magic, and I'm talking about like post-apocalypse, and I'm thinking about traveling. So I have all these things. Like, first of all, well, the father is a mechanical and engineer. He thinks logically, so they have this science costume, this engineer costume, but it's like post-apocalyptic, and they're traveling. So I have like this Mad Max jacket, this look with this scarf. I like this. But it is also the future, because even though it is like society has crumbled and everything, there's no reason why fashion design haven't evolved in the same way that they would have if you're talking about some like Star Trek future or Star Wars future. So I wanted to work on that too. So these like angular lines, I wanted to work them into the costumes as well. And I also like, the magical aspect where they have all these elvish patterns and things like here in this, here, follow me. In this armor and these patterns like this, I want to work them into the costume as well. And there's a lot of things that I want to balance, and not all of them are going to be like super prominent. but still. And for the girl, I wanted to, you know, since she's going to be always protected by the father, I want her to have this sort of cloak or cape or something like this. And since we're talking about magic and she's a really magical girl, I was thinking about more like elvish shoes, or maybe using this pattern here. That was like the research that I liked from everything I watched. So let's now move on to the next step, that is going to be the silhouettes. Now this is going to be the silhouette for the father. Now I have to be honest with you, the ones that I have the red asterisk are the ones that I chose to elaborate on. They are not actually my favorite ones, but the thing about the other shapes that I have is that, well, let's imagine that you're creating this character for a story. In the story, are going to encounter a lot of people that are going to be dressed differently, and if you look at all the other shapes, they kind of look like someone would regularly be dressed like these other silhouettes could belong to any other character, not the special one, you know, like the main character. So giving them this like bug-like cloak or maybe this cape gives them a lot of prominence in a way that you can identify the silhouette in any scene. These other characters, it could be anything. Like if I take the black away from this was what I was working on just a bit, and I really like this one. But still, it's like something that when you see the silhouette or something like that, or is this a character that they met during their travels, this could be like anyone. And it happens the same with the other ones. And here is the silhouette of the girl. Now, of course, I went with the theme of being protective of the girl. So I wanted to have like this cocoon or this bell-shaped cape or cloak around the girl. This just looks like an old lady. I don't like it so much, and I wanted to repeat that theme on the hair. Like it has to look like some sort of helmet, like she always has to be protected. That's what I wanted to go with. And the ones I like I like this one. He has like some bug-like type of cocoon kind of thing, but I really like these two because, well, I just like how they look. And if we take the black away, the shapes that I was working on, I I like this one that it looks like she's wrapped like some sort of, like you wrap a baby, like a newborn baby, talking about a lot how protective her father is going to be. But I really like these two a lot, how they look in the silhouette. You could easily recognize the characters in this too. So what I did next is like, well, these two characters are going to be together all the time, and that's also something that I can just omit. So I put them together here and try to see which combination worked the best. And the one that I like the best is actually this one. So I kept that one and I reproduced it again. And I tried to work like, in the Grease post that was linked on the first video, they talk about trying to work shapes between shapes, and that is by creating rhythm. So themes that are going to be repeating throughout the outfits of the characters. So here I have 4 that I started working on. And here on this one was kind of like the easiest one, because I was thinking about starting with the girl and how overprotective her father was going to be. So I started wrapping her up like in this type of cocoon kind of thing. And then I said like, well, her father is going to be doing the same to protect himself during the travel. So the cape that he has kind of has the same patterns of being like a lot of fabric covering him. Like I could go a little bit further and just start doing just more like something like this. But I didn't want it to look too like a lot of rags thrown onto a person, like too much Mad Max. Because it would, ignore all the fact that I still want to address the fact that fashion still evolved during these 400 years. So, and the other ones I started working on, I was like, well, here I also work with this elf pattern that I have with the girl. So it means that it's really angular. So that means that the cape and the pants are going to be super angular here. He's going to have some sort of jewel or something that clipped the cape that is kind of be like a bit futuristic in the shape. I have to work, I have to elaborate on that. And then for the other ones, well, I was just playing around, but I wanted to put some kind of like elvish patterns around the capes and the cloaks and work with those and make them like kind of work with the angles. I also like a lot, like in this one, I did it because I wanted to show a bit more, just like in this one or in this one, I wanted to show a bit more of the chest of the father, you know, to work some part of another garment there. And I also want to have it like those elvish patterns, like maybe the guy is an engineer and maybe he doesn't want to use a lot of magic, but he's not stupid, so he's going to use magic to protect his daughter. That's why I want to put like some kind of magical thing on her. Like in this one, it has the elvish patterns and maybe a jewel or something, a pendant that would protect her. And at the same time, you know, he's going to try to protect himself. So is he going to try to be practical in the way he's going to dress to travel? But at the same time, it's like his last line of defense. It might be a vest that has some kind of magical protection and whatnot. So now what I have to do is I have to start working colors on this. That is going to be, well, I'm really bad at creating color palettes. And I really haven't decided what the palette is going to be for this, because if I go too green, it's going to be too elvish for this, and I don't want to go that. You know, if you start thinking about like post-apocalyptic colors are going to be always like yellows and browns, and then magical colors are going to be like blues and greens, and maybe some like pink or something like that. And if you think about the future, there's going to be like neutral colors like grays and blacks. So I had to. It's going to be a challenge. So here we are exactly where we left last time, and that is yesterday. And I started looking at these 4 designs that I had to choose from what I was doing, and I found that I actually didn't like any of them, because I thought that like these two, this one and this one, looked too like regal or mystical. This one was a bit too militaristic, and this one was just a bit too like desert Mad Maxy. And I wasn't liking the girl either, because she had her arms covered the whole time. So I stopped working on this ones and I started working on some more, and I got to this ones. Like these ones I like a lot more, because I was trying to find something a little bit more practical and was trying to work a little bit on the layers. And the one that I like is this one, and let me show you why I like it more than anything else. First of all, because it is actually well layered. Second, because I actually can show the belt with the tools for the engineer when I'm using it. I could actually have the arms of the girl show here. I can use this shirt to use this idea of the wrapping, of the cocooning of the girl from the protection of the father, and I could also include this kind of cape that also has this shield-like shape, and add some kind of mystic writings and protections to this so the girl can be protected. And the man, well, the idea is for travel, so he's traveling comfortable shoes, comfortable pants, and you know, this post-apocalyptic idea. So he has this vest that it is kind of magical here. It is kind of like elvish. I'm going to work on that just in a minute. And you know, you have all these wraps that go in, you know, in union, in harmony with her wraps on her shirt. So I like that idea, so I said, oh, well, I'm going to start working on the colors. So for colors I cheated just a bit. What I did for cheating was using this tool that is it's called Adobe Color Themes. You can look for it on the web if you don't want to use it on Photoshop, because you don't use Photoshop, that's fine. So the first thing I did was say, well, I want a complementary palette because, you know, they are contrasty. I like them a lot. And I went for an earth tone because, you know, post-apocalyptic future and whatnot. And I got these blues that I liked a lot because I could work these blues onto the mystical elements of the design. And, you know, at the same time, I could just leave all the, like, muted grays and brown colors, and, well, not these browns, but, you know, all the most muted colors for the futurist aspect of the costumes. I know that is a lot of ink too, consider, but once you look at them, you'll see that it's not that bad. This is what I just showed you, and now I'm going to show you what I did. So here we are. This is the palette that I formed here, and you see that my first attempt, it's a little bit more colorful, but I was working on this idea that all the blue stuff was going to be the mystical stuff, as to have a theme. So I just dressed them in this like deserty earth yellow colors, and then I put the blue on the vest, because as you saw, as I told you before, I wanted to use this vest as a kind of like last resource protection, so it has to be some kind of mystical vest. And she is wearing also blue for her little cape. Now here I went just a little bit more dark and earthy, but I started using like this red on the pants to give it some like kind of future, so to speak, design. I know it's just a red line, but it's not like something like it's not, doesn't belong in a fantasy world, so to speak, and it doesn't belong in the past either. So it is a bit like more modern. I added some like elvish kind of patterns on the vest to signify the protection, and I just kept this as conspicuous as possible. And for the girl, I just kept the blue, and I gave him also some red shoes, because these shoes are going to have some kind of tiny wings on its design, you know, like a Santa elf kind of shoes. And so I made him just to pop a little bit more with color. So, you know, I wanted to see if I could work on that idea of using vibrant colors to show the magical things and then keep everything else muted. So for this thing, is like, well, if we keep on that theme, you see that like the most magical thing would be his coat. So I added this silver lining things that I don't know, because I really like it, but I don't think that it goes with the character, because someone who is trying to, if the whole idea was that these two characters had to travel from point A to point B, they're going to try to be as low-key as possible, and this blue thing and yellow jacket is, you know, it's not maybe the best, but it's still, I really like the combination of colors. In this one, I had no idea what to do, and this is awful. But the girl I really like, so I kept these vibrant greens for the shoes and the cape. And well, for the father, these are the two the two ones that I chose. I chose this one and I chose this one, and I didn't know what to do with the girl, so I just started mixing them up to see where I could come up. And here they are. Check them out. See, I made a mix here. I started mixing them all, and you know, uncovering some of them, and you can see, well, there's an asterisk in the ones that I chose, and I like how they work together. Just trying to look at them, and I stared at them for a long while, and then I choose between four, and here are the four like that. The final four, well, here I chose other two, because what I did in order, because I was really undecided about this, and you can tell by the way I'm talking to you, but I was really undecided about what to do, and I actually used this, the navigator, to my own advantage, because I saw, if you're looking at the screen, I saw that in this one, it all looks just a little bit muted. There's just not too much contrast, so there's going to be more contrast between the father and the daughter here, between these two. And in this one, it kind of, well, I'm not too convinced about the yellow cape on the girl, so even though I liked it on the previous face, I'm still liking a little bit more of this one. So the two on the right, those are going to be my two final choices for the design. I'm still undecided, and I don't know which of them I am going to choose. One or two? Brown coat or blue coat? I don't really know. It really depends on the tone of the story I'm trying to tell, doesn't it? Well, hopefully I'll figure it out by tomorrow. I I really like the colors on the one on the bottom, but it looks like they're having an adventure through a magical forest where nothing will go wrong. And that's not the idea for what I had in mind. I was thinking more something about more like a journey where there could be peril and they had to be inconspicuous and, hiding from people. So, the one on the top is the one that has to be, is the one that is going to feed more the story that I would be telling. So now that I decided this, I want to show you, I want to show you this. And this would be, in a way, the final design. There's still like a lot of refining that I could be doing with this, but this is what I came up after trying a bit. Now I have here on the left how they would look if they weren't wearing their coats or cloaks or whatever it is they're wearing, however you want to call them. And on the right is with their cloaks and the coat. And I wanted to do this because, well, there's a contextual thing about, the doing characters and costumes that maybe they go inside a place and they don't need to be wearing these garments, and they could be just with the shirt. And if you look at it, what I like about them, that, of course, there's always like so much work to do, but still, what I like about them is that if I told you that this is a magical future and these are the character designs, it's like, well, you could kind of buy it. I mean, the father, kind of looks like some character from Firefly or something like that, but the girl could be more from a magical future. I still like, from the short amount of time that I had to develop a language of costumes for these characters, I think that this is a really good start. So I'm pretty happy with what I came up with. I may have to try to unify both characters a bit more so they look a bit more like each other because, they're father and son. But, if, from the place we started, there was just this. And then we moved to so many stages and so many tryings and all the silhouettes and everything and all the combinations. And suddenly we're here and I have a design that I like and that I think that it will fit the tone and the universe where this story is happening. Well, I'm pretty proud of myself. I have to be honest with you, I always hated costume design and character design, but I kind of enjoyed it a lot. So I might be doing more of this. Yeah, I should be doing more of this. If you want to see more videos, please give it a subscribe. If you want to ask me what type of video I can do, if I can do a video on a certain subject that you want to learn and that I have problems with too, just leave a comment and let me know. That's it for today and that's it for this week. Enjoy your weekend. I'm sure that you can draw too, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye!